She's got to be so. Join Teach for America because of this.
All right. We'll let people sort of get into the room. All right. Give it a few more seconds. Andre says, hello, everyone. Hello, Andre. We're happy to have you. All right. So, all right, so we'll go ahead and get started. I just have a little bit of housekeeping. So welcome on behalf of the Behavioral Alliance of South Carolina and the Southeastern School Behavioral Health Community. We would like to welcome you to this month's national webinar, Leveraging University School Mentoring Partnerships to Promote Positive Youth Development with Tia Anderson and Karen Hunter. Before I turn it over to our presenters, I have some brief housekeeping. So to obtain CEUs for this webinar, please email bask@mailbox.sc.edu. I'll put that in the chat. Our team will confirm your attendance via completion of the pre-survey and post-survey. I will display our pre-survey momentarily. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will go over those at the end. Welcome to those of you joining on Facebook Live. If you have any questions, please type them in the comment box below and I will field them to our presenters on your behalf. I will now invite our presenters to share their screen and we will take about a minute to complete the pre-survey. And then the post-survey will be displayed at the conclusion of the presentation. So let me do that. Well, should be. There we go. Launching that. See a couple of responses coming in. Okay. If you guys want to go ahead and get started, I will turn it over to you.
Hi, Tia. Hi, Karen. How are you? We are once again talking about the UofSC and MBA, Newbridge Academy Mentoring Program. I love talking about this program with you.
We've been spending the last 5 or so years talking about this program, and we're really excited to share it with you guys today. Let's see.
You want to tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, let me see if I can get my clicker to work. I might be. Sorry, guys. It was working in our practice. There we go.
That's a nice picture.
So tell us about yourself. Mrs.
All
Hunter?
right. Well, I am Karen Hunter. When we started, I was Karen Stevens, but I am now Karen Hunter. I am a school counselor at Newbridge Academy, which is the district's alternative school in Lexington School District 2. And I have been with the program now for about 6 years, and I service students kindergarten through 12th grade.
And I'm Tia Anderson. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice at the University of South Carolina. So I am a professor. I'm also a teacher. And until very recently, I regularly taught all of our classes on youth delinquency prevention and youth involvement in the justice system. And those are also my areas of interest as well. So at the end, I'm going to ask you to kind of hold this in the back of your head since we can't see your chat. But we'd love to hear about you, yourself, your students, and your school. And as we're going through our presentation, we'd love for you to think about the ways in which a university school mentoring partnership can help your students in your school. So think creatively. All right, so I'm going to put on my academic nerd hat for a moment, and I'm going to provide you a very short introduction to youth mentoring. It's Thursday afternoon before a long weekend. I promise I will be very brief. And then we're going to move into the meat of our conversation, which is how we created our mentoring program, how it's structured and implemented, and then in our mind, some of the key steps for building a university K-12 partnership mentoring program. We're going to tell you about our challenges, things that we've learned along the way, and share some of our success stories.
Right.
All right. So mentoring really refers to a relatively stable relationship between a volunteer, which is the mentor, who is paired with a younger or less experienced person who is the mentee. And generally their relationship is built around the mentor offering guidance and offering support, someone to listen to, someone to help them set goals along the way. And mentoring programs for youth have really proliferated in recent years because they are a relatively low cost intervention strategy. The research shows that they work pretty well for preventing risk behaviors and promoting positive youth outcomes. So, man, there's thousands of youth mentoring programs across the country. So there is just a really, really, really huge body of literature that studies the benefits of youth mentoring for the mentees involved. And it can really be boiled down to just improving youth behavioral, psychological, educational, social, emotional, and cognitive functioning domains. And really, in summarizing the literature, it appears to be a pretty effective strategy for improving school behavior, academic achievement, reducing delinquency, aggression, and drug use. All right, so I'm done with that. There's your lesson. I'm done. So today we're really focused on school-based mentoring. When you think of mentoring, you probably are thinking of maybe big brothers, big sisters, which is a community-based mentoring program. What we're talking today is about school-based mentoring, which has a number of strengths compared to community-based programs. For one, because generally they're structured where there's one meeting per week at the school site, there can be a lower burden on volunteers. It also relies on teacher or administrative referrals. So you're scooping in the students who may otherwise not come to the attention of mentoring programs, because community-based programs really rely on parent or guardian referral into the program. Because it is at the school site, there's easier access to training, supervision, and support for mentors and mentees. And As a result, it can be a lower cost than community programs. So it doesn't come without its challenges, though.
We've had our challenges.
So for one, I think, and this is one of our biggest challenges, is that we are constrained by the academic calendar. School days have segmented blocks of time. We steal one of your blocks each week. But y'all do things, you're super rude, like by going on spring break and having Thanksgiving holidays and things. So all of these things kind of interrupt the mentoring. Another problem is that youth move, right? They switch schools, or they may be absent and miss mentoring sessions. And a challenge when you're talking about recruiting, say, adult professional mentors, school-based mentoring occurs during the workday because it happens during standard school hours. So that can be difficult for folks to really take an hour or 2 hours out of their workday each week. And that's, why university mentors are so great. And then the last real challenge is that it constrains the activities that can happen. So since all the mentoring occurs at the school, they can't like go to a movie, right? But we think as a team that really the strengths outweigh the challenges.
All
right, so let's talk about what we do. Let's talk about our baby. So the Adolescent Mentoring Program is a time-limited, semi-structured mentoring program. I'll get into what I mean by those terms. And we developed it collaboratively in 2017. It's a partnership between Newbridge Academy in Lexington School District 2 and the College of Arts and Sciences at UofSC. So we work together and we match trained university student mentors with high school students. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your school and your students?
Well, Tia, again, the partnership that we've had, it doesn't seem like it's been that long since 2017, but each semester, I think it's gotten better and better. And I remember the first time I actually introduced this program to our students here at Newbridge. And actually, I introduced it to one of the students, and they basically said, "Oh, what you got us doing now? What is this?" And I'm like, "It'll be fine. It'll be good. We're okay." And pretty much after the college students came in, and I asked that one same student who was like, "Oh my goodness," I had to almost pick her off the floor. But when I asked her at the end, she was like, "That's pretty good. It was cool." And I was like, "Okay, all right." And each semester, it amazes me. I go around and I talk with our Newbridge students, and I asked them, "How was that experience? How was that?" And they was like, "It was straight. It was good. I liked it." And I'm, so each time I'm actually very amazed. But right now, like I said, I work with students kindergarten through 12th grade. Right now, we've actually got the program just pretty much for our high school students. And we basically wanted to use that as a stepping stone to pretty much maybe go to our middle school students and then to our elementary students. But our elementary students do get a little taste of it. We'll tell you why in a minute. But it's right now basically just for our high school students. And as our population actually grows, then we actually get more students in, and then our mentors can actually work on that one-on-one and group basis and stuff. But our students actually really enjoy it.
So tell me about your goal. What's your goal at Newbridge Academy?
Well, I started out, the good thing about it is that I have a very supportive administrative staff. When I came to Newbridge Academy, I was the first school counselor for the alternative program. And they asked me, well, what would you like to create? And of course, that was a dream come true for a counselor to actually have a program, that they can actually do. And I said, I think I'd like to have a mentoring program. And my principal at the time was like, I'm thinking along the same lines. And for the most part, let's just see what we can do. And of course, you know how this started. I think we'll tell about that at the end of how we actually got started. But you and I had this connection. And my goal has always been to actually have a mentoring program for the elementary, the middle, and the high school levels.
All right, so we were recently on WLTX,
Yeah.
which was kind of fun.
That was kind of cool.
It's very cool. So we're going to share with you a video because it features some of our program participants, a mentor-mentee pair. And honestly, they can tell it better than we can. They should be up here.
A mentoring program between USC and a Midlands alternative school is setting teens up for life after high school. News 19's Eleanor Tabone explains.
It helped me be able to know that I can find people out there to talk to, because, you know, I was really closed off. I ain't really like expressing my feelings, but, you know, meeting the mentors, they kind of helped me open up.
15-year-old Lamaria Burgess is a mentee.
I probably would still be getting in trouble.
The Newbridge Academy student says meeting her UofSC mentor was like meeting her big sister.
When I was with them, it was just like I could breathe and, you know, express myself finally.
I feel like we were making a real change in the lives of our mentees.
Alexis Brown is her mentor. The duo meeting weekly.
It really did feel like a big sisterhood, and we were all just very supportive of each other.
Dr. Tia Anderson says the goal is to teach young people the meaning of resilience, at the same time teaching USC students leadership skills and empathy.
We all need someone in our life who is our unconditional supporter, who believes in us, who truly cares for us.
It is for students who have made poor choices.
Karen Hunter from Newbridge Academy sees mentors have a lasting impact on her students.
Plants a seed about moving forward with their life and going to college and realizing, you know, I may not have done what I need to do in high school, but if I can just get through high school, I can still, you know, go on to college.
They may not be biological sisters, but Lamaria and Alexis say they will be sisters forever. In Casey, Eleanor Tabone, News 19 WLTX.
Well, Dr. Anderson says she's applying for grant money to study the long and short-term outcomes of this program for both the high schoolers and college students.
Yeah, that was a really good segment, and that pretty much speaks well of how the program has actually worked ever since 2017. We get a positive feedback from my students. I know we get a positive feedback from your students.
Yeah.
And each time they want to say, I wish we had more time to actually work with them.
That's the biggest complaint. So really, when I set about kind of designing how I wanted this to work, I really wanted to choose a strengths-based approach that's consistent with really our values system. Right. So the goal of the mentoring program is to strengthen youth protective factors, and really we want to promote resilience and life success. At the same time, though, my USC students are becoming community engaged leaders, and the ultimate goal is that they practice their intended professions with integrity, compassion, and empathy. So that was a little bit of a plot twist. When we started the mentoring program, we were really focused on promoting positive youth development among the students here at Newbridge Academy. And then, silly me, I didn't realize the impact that it was having on my students until I saw it in action.
One of the things that I love to do, you know, at the beginning is when I come and meet the mentors for the first time. And it always takes me back to USC, because I tell you, you know, that's where I started. I started in the criminal justice program. So I love seeing your students. And it's always interesting how they seem a little nervous in meeting my students. And I kind of tease them a little bit. And I said, are y'all scared? I said, you know, and that very first meeting, and after they meet my students and we do the debriefing, and each semester they pretty much said, that was good, that was great, oh, they're so sweet, I love them, or whatever. I was like, yeah, they're people. They, you know, and my students really enjoy working with them as well.
But it was funny, before we started the webinar, we were looking at my students behind us, and I was kind of pointing out like, oh, she decided to go into school counseling. He decided to join Teach for America, because you really do see that it changes the kind of career trajectory of my students.
You teach criminal justice,
I
right?
know,
And when I
right?
asked them in the beginning, I said, what do y'all want to do? And these are our future lawyers. These are our future forensic scientists, our future judges. And after a while, they're our social workers and our counselors and stuff. So that's really neat to see.
Yeah, it sure is. All right, so let's talk about like the kind of meat and potatoes of the mentoring program, like how it works, how the sausage is made. So mentors are recruited through a dedicated university course. It's officially on the books at the UofSC bulletin. It's an upper division elective course. It's a 500 level class, which means I'm getting mostly juniors and seniors and occasionally a master's student.
You said elective, right?
Elective, yes.
They don't have to take the class.
They do not have to take the class, which is good.
Yes.
So it is a criminal justice class, so it can be count as an elective for the major. It's cross-listed with women and gender studies as well, so it can also count toward their certificate program. But because it's an experiential learning class and a service learning class, many students take it so that they can graduate with leadership distinction, which is cool.
You had a nursing major one time.
Yeah, I had a biochemistry major this semester.
You had a dancing major this semester, right? Yes.
So we do get a pretty diverse set of students.
It's becoming very popular.
It is, yes. So that is really how students are recruited, is it's on the books. When students go to register, they sign up for the course. And in criminal justice at USC, we have over 800 majors. So and then when you start bringing in women and gender studies, and then any student who in any other degree program who wants to graduate with leadership distinction, you're talking about a very large pool of potential mentors. We've taught the class every semester since 2017, and usually demand from undergraduates exceeds what we can, kind of our capacity.
Well, we work very hard to protect who actually comes into the program, because of course, they're college students, but some of them, we have to make sure that they are a good fit to work with my students. And so we actually have worked very hard behind the scenes to make sure that my students are protected, because your students have to get a SLED check report, don't they?
Yeah, so let's talk about what happens once they enroll in the class.
Right.
So on the first day of class, I give them a very scary kind of orientation, and it's a mandatory component of being able to mentor. So if they miss the first day of class, they have to watch a video or come meet with me. And I go over really all the ground rules, so that, because some of them show up on the first day of class and they're like, oh, we're actually mentoring. And I'm like, oh, sweetie. So there's a mandatory orientation that they have to do. They have to go through a SLED check, a sex offender registry check. There's an application process. And then I kick their butts a little bit with a training. So they go through 12.5 hours of in-class training. It's spread out over 5 weeks. You can see on your screen the topics of each kind of training module. And we move through it very quickly. And for each module, they're submitting reading notes. They're writing papers each week. And then it's graded on a mastery-based scale. So students must demonstrate mastery on all of the training content before they're allowed to mentor. And it's a little bit like running a marathon. Sometimes I have to provide a little bit, more help to others.
Well, I appreciate all that you actually do on that level or whatever. Again, going back to the fact that my students are protected by your students going through a SLED report, the sex offender registry. We get all that information before they even come on campus.
Yes.
And then of course, I love the rigor that you actually put them through, because it makes it important for me. Do they really want to do this? Or are they just kind of fluffing this off and say, oh, this is an easy class, I'm just going to talk to some kids or whatever? No, we take pride in the fact that, I'm protecting my kids.
Yeah. And they really do work very hard. So let's see. Yeah, anyone who doesn't demonstrate proficiency on these training assignments have to go back and revise until they get it right, until we know that they will be good mentors to your students.
Right. There have been times I've come to the class, usually about 2 or 3 weeks in, I introduce myself, and there are some students, maybe just 1 or 2 or whatever,
Yeah, there's
but
usually
you
1 or
pretty
2.
much get a dedicated group, and I really appreciate the work you actually do on that.
Then at the end of training, they do an exam, which is a series of kind of hypothetical scenarios. And over time, I had to invent them. And then it didn't take long for me to be able to pull from
Real life
experiences running the program. And they have to really give a lot of thought and detail in how they would respond in each situation. And again, if you don't pass that exam, you don't get to mentor. And instead you have to write just a ton of papers and really do some very unpleasant alternative work. All right. So then after the training period is over, usually almost all of my students do make it to the end. There might be one, I think one semester, maybe 2 didn't quite get there. But every high school student is matched with the university mentor.
Right. That matching process, I really love how we actually do that, whatever. It seems to really, really work. I think we get it right pretty much the majority of the time.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if there's ever been a time when it's really just didn't work and stuff, but I think that's the dedication and again, the preparedness you've done for your students.
Thank you. It's a whole thing. So to match, I have my students I look over their enrollment applications. I also give them a background survey where I collect information on their important life experiences that they feel comfortable sharing with me. And by then we've developed a very good classroom climate. So I received some very kind of honest responses as to what they've been through in life and what they feel they can offer their mentee.
And then I prepare a little synopsis of each one of my students and stuff and kind of tell you a little bit about them or whatever. Most of the time we've got a majority of females.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It is right. It's changing though.
It's changing. But, we do have to tell them how we pretty much are very careful in not necessarily putting a male, your male, with a female of mine. So that's never been a match before.
Correct.
But it's always been female to female or female, your female to my male.
Correct. Or male, which is also
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I don't know how it works, but it does.
It works.
It's a gut feeling, and every semester my students tell me it's magical. It's like the little sister they've never had. So one of the really cool parts about utilizing a university is that my students are they're literally hostages. So they're there because they want to be there, but also there's something at stake for them. They need the credit. They're paying a lot of money to be in my class. They've gone through a really rigorous training period. So because they're my kind of captive audience, every week we're still meeting on campus. We're doing ongoing support and training. They submit weekly journal entries that I review to help kind of supervise the mentoring relationship. They just really receive a lot of support from me, from you, and then also from each other. It becomes, our classroom sessions become a really important space for them to talk about the struggles and the successes they're experiencing.
And so that first week where the rubber meets the road, they come on that first Thursday, because we've designated mentoring day as Thursdays at New Bridge. And so they come on that first day. I do an actual pre-briefing with the students, and I do that every Thursday. I pretty much tell them who's come to school, who's there for the day. I pretty much tell them what challenges that I'm meeting. I may have a student that actually has come to school and they've not had a good morning, and I pretty much will prepare your students, and let them know about that. Or I let them know from one week to the next. We have a level system, and I let them know what level that they're actually on. and we just pretty much just give, what's going on at that particular time, so they know what to meet. And then we have the times when my students don't come to school, but that's unfortunate. But like I said, I was trying to have the program also for my elementary students and my elementary teachers and my little ones, of course. I wouldn't say they get the crumbs, but they love it, because we've pretty much shared our mentors with the elementary group, and we may only just have one or two. It started off just kind of, what do we do with your students? And
I can't send you home.
Yes.
Let's put you to work.
Then we went down and we're like, hey, we've got a college student. Yay! We want somebody to come in. We're like, we can do this. We can do this.
Yeah.
And now I think this semester we had more mentors
Yep.
than I actually had students in the
Correct.
beginning.
Yep.
But we had a dedicated group.
We did. The
that
elementary students had a dedicated group of mentors, which was amazing. It's the first
Amazing.
time it's ever happened.
Yes.
And I think it worked really well.
Worked very well.
So after the briefing,
then they go into the classrooms. And once again, Tia has actually prepared her students where they have a lesson each week. They come very prepared with a lesson for the week. And that lasts about 15 minutes.
Yep.
And then they go on to the one-on-one mentoring breakout and what have you. And so during that time period here, I mean, it's a wonderful sight to see. I will see students, over in a corner talking to their mentors. I see them out in the hallway talking to their mentors. We give them, they can go down to the gym and go talk. They can go in the cafeteria or whatever. We pretty much still tell them, as long as somebody can see you or the cameras are there, whatever, because we're always about protecting your students, protecting my students during the process. But it's a beautiful sight to see them all over and really engaging. I just love it. This semester, what I love, you remember the girls group?
oh my gosh, I'll never forget
The girls group or whatever. Of course, we designed this for one-on-one mentoring, but we had the perfect storm.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to call it a storm, but we actually had 5 of my girls who were best friends. And then we had 5 mentees to come, and they just really talked, and it was so well.
Yeah.
Until it was like, let's just stay together. Let's just form this group. And it really became a girls group. And then we added 2 more girls, because sometimes that happens. I have students, it's very transit sometimes. I have students who come in during the middle, whatever, but they accepted them so well. And I would walk by and go, oh, I want to hear the group. But we're very careful in giving them their privacy. But just to see that group.
Oh, they had such a girl power dynamic.
It was girl power.
It was.
That's what it was. Yes. And so after the mentoring, I usually have to, I'm the timekeeper. So I go around and I'm like, it's time. Knock,
You're the bad cop.
Knock, it's time. I have to pull your students away.
Yeah.
I have to look, you gotta go. Class, you have to go. And I go around the first time, and then I come back around, I'm like, oh,
why are you not packing up?
Yeah, you gotta go. So that just lets you know how engaged they are.
Yeah.
And it's not my students who are trying to, well, we don't want to go to class. No, it's your students who are saying, oh, we're still talking, whatever. And then I gather up the whole group, and then we go down to what we call a debriefing area. And so I pretty much, this was a after picture, that's our cocky sign, but this is the after picture where I'm around talking to the students, and I pretty much ask them, so 1, are y'all okay? And then 2, is there anything I need to know? For the most part, is everybody okay? Of course, I do a check-in. Do I have any students who want to hurt themselves? Do I have any students who are out there maybe doing anything dangerous or whatever? Because of course, being a counselor, I have to actually know these things. And I don't need for them to feel like they have to keep that all to themselves and stuff like that. So, I'm here counseling them to let them know, what do I need to know? Yeah. And then I put a little joke at the end. Does anybody, are they want to hurt themselves? Anybody want to hurt me? All right. But in any case, we do this each week. We have a debriefing, and then they go off to write in the journal their experience for the week, and anything that you all have to do, and then you go prepare the lesson for the next week. And we do this for how many weeks? 8 to 10 weeks, right?
Yeah.
8 to 10 weeks. And then of course there's a spring break in there, your spring break in there for the most part. But it is amazing how much they actually engage on that 1 week.
Yeah, the first
each week.
My students think your students are not going to talk.
Oh,
And then they walk out the first day and they're like, I can't believe how much they've learned, how much they've really.
And I really praise the college students. I said, look, I've been doing this for quite some time. I've been doing this for over 30 some years. And I even tell my students, I'm like, they're close to the age. They understand, what you're going through. They've just recently, within the past 2 or 3 years, gone through that. And they do. My students open up, and of course, they have been trained by you to be very good listeners. And so it works.
So we have these weekly sessions. I said we're semi-structured, and what I meant by that was that when each session begins with a small group kind of curriculum, that 10 to 15 minute curriculum that I developed that focuses on things like risk-taking and decision-making. So each week there's a theme, and then once that's done, it goes into the unstructured portion, which is the one-on-one, where it's completely individualized and focused on, I call it goal-oriented problem solving, and the development of skills to achieve their goals.
Your students have been very good at being flexible and recognizing sometimes our students, they piggyback off the lesson.
Yeah.
But then sometimes my student may bring up something or whatever. And so they've been, again, trained very well to be very flexible. And I think that, of course, we add that component where we have to constantly recognize we're teaching them as well.
Yeah.
And so, they come with their interests and what can I do? There have been times we've had to tell them, you're planting a seed.
Yes.
You're planting a seed, I know you come here to save the world, but you're planting a seed. And so you never know if you're going to see that seed, grow very quickly.
Yeah.
Or, you've just planted it just for it to grow another time.
And either one is a very good lesson to learn for a university student. So one of the best parts of my job is our formal closure ceremony. So in mentoring, if you're thinking about developing a mentoring program, because it's school-based, it is going to be time limited just by the very nature of the school structure. And one thing that's very important in the literature is having an opportunity for formal closure and not ending the relationship cold turkey. So our formal closure ceremony occurs during USC's final exam week. And we have a block of time where we invite y'all to campus for the day.
How about having a final exam where you actually have
it's a party,
it's
literally.
A party. Oh, and of course, my students, of course, love it. It is something that we actually start telling them about usually 2 or 3 weeks out. And, my students have to be on a certain level in order to go on campus. We wear uniforms at my school, but when I can tell them that they can wear their own clothes, oh my goodness.
They pick them out weeks in advance.
Oh my, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. I'm like, oh, I know what I'm gonna wear. And my students, sometimes I don't even recognize. I'm like, oh, who are you? Oh,
I know they come so sharply dressed. They come and we meet them at the head of the horseshoe, and then each small group goes on a personalized tour of campus. So of course, everyone wants to see the Strom Workout Center and some of the cooler aspects, like where people eat and all of the classrooms and stuff. But they also work hard to, if you have a student like who's interested in art, going kind of and touring that area of campus. And then we gather for a little celebration where we invite each one of my students to come up and give a certificate of participation to your students, and then say a few words in closing about just to really build up kind of that moment for the mentee, and thank them for the wonderful semester.
And you would think, that no one would have anything to say. And there are times, where everybody's a little shy and they're giggling or whatever. But Tia, do you remember that one semester when your student and my students. I mean, it was a tear-jerking moment.
I should have put that video in. They had to like run out of the room.
Oh my goodness.
crying.
I had one of my students who got so emotional and she kind of just walked out or whatever. And then I had a group of guys, guys usually act silly or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But I had this one student. You remember, Tia?
Yes, I was pregnant and I was sobbing.
We could not get him to actually say a whole lot during the semester. We wouldn't talk. And then with no prompting, it didn't happen before, it's not happened since. And my students don't have to say anything, but this one particular student actually just, without any prompting, got up and started talking about how he appreciated the program, how he actually got something out of it. I was recording some of it, but I was like, and I didn't get that recording.
Uh-huh.
So, it's a memory or whatever, but I don't think I'll ever forget that.
Never. And this was a student with some very significant mental health challenges.
Yes.
That was certainly a challenge to mentor. And to see.
And he wouldn't hardly talk.
He wouldn't talk.
But in the end, in the closing ceremony, it was just one of those things you're like, that's the one we came for.
Yeah. And you remember what happened to his mentor? It was Abby.
Oh my goodness. Let me tell you, it came full circle. Abby, she didn't know what she wanted to do. And I got to be her supervisor because Abby decided she wanted to be a school counselor.
Yep.
And so now she's a school counselor in the upstate.
Yeah.
And she was my supervisee last semester. What semester?
Last year when she was in graduate school.
Yeah.
And now she's a school counselor. So we also at this time, we need to provide the formal closure ceremony because not everyone is going to stay in touch. But many do, and we provide guidance to mentors, mentees, and the parents on how to stay in touch.
Because again, let's go back to how we actually protect our students, your students and my students. The only time they get to meet, or the only contact they actually have is doing that formal session during the week.
Correct.
We do not have any social media connection. They don't communicate by phone, Instagram, they don't have any of that information.
Correct.
And so again, that's to protect your students, that's to protect my students. But in the end, and we're under that, our MOU, our memorandum of agreement or understanding. And then at the end, we pretty much make it clear, we're not under that.
Yep.
But then we give it over to the parents. So there's a parental letter that's given to the parents and say, your son or daughter has completed the program and they, if you want them to continue with the mentor, it'll be up to you. We definitely encourage them to meet the mentor. And then it's up to them whether they actually want to stay in contact. And so we've actually seen some successes where parents are like, that would be good. And we definitely instruct your students to, call the parents, meet the parents, but it's not forced. It's really, a mutual thing if they want to and stuff like that. So we love it.
All right. So what would a university class be without a final project? So the final project for my students is a positive youth development handbook. So they work collaboratively to create a book that's given to the mentees.
I always thought that was cool.
It is very
cool. The final exam.
Yeah. So they collaboratively build this book, and then each mentee receives a copy of the book. And this semester, this student right there was my intern, and she translated the entirety of the book into Spanish for the program, which was pretty amazing.
And when I tell you that things just kind of come together, I think this was the first semester that I actually had 3 Hispanic students.
Yes.
And one who was very much really not a English speaker.
Correct.
And you had 2 or 3. Yeah, two Spanish speaking mentors.
Yes. So we had, for the first semester ever, we had 2 pairs mentoring exclusively in Spanish. So one of them created all of the handouts and materials translated into Spanish that we'll have in the future.
Yeah, so that just let us know this program is meant to be.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about resources. What do you need to do this? You need time, But other than that, it's a 2-woman show and it's on a shoestring budget.
Shoestring.
We've got the dedicated university course. We've got the promise that I can teach it every semester. You've got me doing the recruiting, training, and supervising of mentors.
I provide the students.
Yeah, we'll get to you. And then we get about 1,000 to 2,000. The university pays for the school bus driver to come to campus, and then lunch for your students. So they pay for the field trip, and that's kind of the expense right there. It's just the field trip for the formal closure.
So for the most part, again, that's the end all be all, because they have my students just to leave campus, and on the bus they get so excited about that. And then of course, if I just fed them chips and everything, because we give them chips and we give them water, and we're like, no, that's not it. We got a bigger meal. Oh, what?
I know they eat in it like a buffet dorm, and it's really cool. So what sorts of resources do y'all need in place?
Well, for the most part, I need the support, of course, of my staff and everything like that. And prior to the university actually offering the monies, remember, we did get some monies with some grants and stuff like that. But again, thanks to Tia, she was able to secure that on an ongoing basis. But we needed support of, again, our district office, our teachers. Our teachers, I can't say enough, who actually really take the time to actually make this program work. Again, one of the ways that we protect your students and my students is that my teachers are always in the background. They're pretty much like a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
They don't say anything, but they're there to actually make sure, kind of make the mentors feel a little comfortable where they're not necessarily solely left in the room.
Yeah.
But pretty much they just kind of forget that the actual teacher is there. But just a buy-in from everybody. So.
We've been so lucky. All right, so let's shift back to the university level. There are a few challenges. So recruiting university students, I think that as word has spread, my class has really blown up and now it's regularly full. I'm not gonna lie, it's more work to teach this class than any other class, but also it's way more fulfilling. Like I appreciate you. I would not do it any other way. It gives me purpose. One challenge has been that we've learned from kind of trial and error is ensuring consistency in your students' experiences. And one example of that is when we first started this program, I had each of my students make their own book. And just like in any class, I've got some students who just really knock every assignment out of the ballpark and go above and beyond. And then I have some who don't. So
who did the bare minimum?
Yeah. So
we had one book that was this thick.
Oh my gosh, one was like a binder. You practically needed to like roll it.
And then we had one that was a few pages.
Yes.
So we had to make it standardized.
Yes. And now I think it works so much better because as I showed pictures before, each of my students does a certain number of pages and then we compile them all because really the goal is to create the best possible book.
Right. Resource book or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's something we actually had to learn. That was trial and error.
It was, yeah.
But Tia, COVID.
Oh my God.
How did we operate through COVID?
I don't know.
We did it.
We did it.
We still had the program.
We still had the program.
Virtually.
We did it virtually. It was like running a 3-ring circus, but we both worked so hard to make it happen. And I'm so excited that we were able to provide that connection to your students, even virtually.
Even virtually. And what did you basically said? You pretty much said, was it better?
So a lot of people ask, oh, is virtual mentoring better than in-person mentoring when we would talk about the challenges of COVID, or is it as good? Does it work as well? Yeah. And I really would challenge people to reframe. Maybe it doesn't work as well, but it's better than nothing. And this can be particularly useful for maybe school districts that aren't literally right next to a university, because you can do Zoom mentoring or virtual mentoring across a geographic area And so some mentoring is better than nothing in that case.
And I guess if we actually had to do it again, we would actually work through, challenges to make it just as good or whatever.
Yeah.
But again, just like Tia said, if we're in a college town, so we have universities at our disposal, but there's no reason why you shouldn't have to be limited to that if you're in a rural area. So I'm pretty sure it can work.
Yeah. Okay, challenges on your end.
Oh my goodness. I always tell my students I can't work with them if they're not here. And so some of the reasons why my students are at Newbridge is because of truancy. And that's where I tell your students, you engage my students, make them want to come or whatever. And I think there have been times when there have been students, my students would come just that day, and maybe not any other day, but they would come just that day or whatever. But I think that's gotten better over time. But again, like I said, if one of the reasons we found out that we can work with the elementary is because one of my students didn't come or whatever. So, but that it is a challenge. If my student does not attend, then they don't get the benefit of the program. Sometimes my students still don't make the best choices in actually being at our program. And if they actually get transition out of the program by way of expulsion, or sometimes I have my students move or whatever, then you lose, your mentor loses out or whatever. And it always so heartbreaking when my student is not available for your student or whatever. And so that has been its challenges, whatever. But we learn and we get through that.
Yeah, we do.
I think you said, sometimes my students start mid-semester.
Oh yeah, they do.
But I think what we've actually come to realize is that we have a cutoff.
We do.
Because if it's usually about 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out or whatever, because so we realize if my student comes in very late in the semester,
they're not going to get anything.
They're not going to get much from it or whatever. And it's not very fair, for them to have to actually, participate in the fun stuff at the end or whatever. But usually what happens is that if my student has come that late in the semester, they're going to be a carryover into the next semester.
They are, yeah.
And so they will.
Then they get the full experience.
Yes.
All right. So
where we are now, Tia.
I know, right? So in reflecting on the key steps is first thinking about your needs in your school and how you can kind of slide university students into that to help meet your needs. And networking. This program came about because I would teach these classes to undergrads, and they were like juvenile delinquency and juvenile justice classes. My students would line up and they'd be like, how can I get involved? What can I do in the community? And I just saw that there was so much energy and enthusiasm that could be harnessed and put to good use.
And then we happen to know have a mutual person
we did
that we work with or whatever.
Yes.
And I was talking to our mutual friend. She was a little nosy.
I was
kind of
eavesdropping.
was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Did you see mentoring?
Yes. And now, oh my goodness. She introduced us to each other, whatever. I mean, I think within a day, we had emails flying back or whatever. And at the end, we were so excited because we were like, I think we can make this work.
And we did.
We did.
It took about 6 months because we had to get the memorandum of understanding written and approved
on your end
and your end.
On my end.
I have a policy and procedure manual that kind of outlines all the expectations for mentors as well. Of course, the syllabus and training development and stuff and whatnot.
We had to anticipate the questions that your people would have concerns about. Of course, I knew the concerns my people have. And so now we can just tell them, okay, we've got that covered. Yes, we've got that covered or whatever. And the main thing is, again, your students are protected, my students are protected.
And then, so I would encourage you to think very creatively in searching for a university partner. So I'm in criminology and criminal justice. My work is in kind of delinquency prevention. But you can imagine just the students in education, social work, counseling, other social sciences like psychology or sociology. There might be an opportunity there to develop a course, say mentoring interventions for children and youth, prevention of psychological problems in children that could incorporate mentoring. Think about any sort of human service prevention or human service profession. I mean, even like a physical education, you could imagine how they could incorporate mentoring.
Right.
So use your imagination and then just start reaching out, and you can even reach out to me as well if this is something you're interested in pursuing, and I'm happy to share kind of our strategies and samples of materials and put you in touch with people.
Yes, we don't want this program just to be ours. We want it to actually be replicated because we we see the need, and we, for the most part, recognize, again, we're in a college town, so we think the Midlands, for the most part, should have a mentoring program in every school.
Every school, yeah. So I know that we're getting very short on time, so I'm going to close with this slide, which is sad because I have videos of her. But tell us about Rebecca.
Rebecca, you'll see on one hand where she's with her mentor, and this is when Rebecca was in the 9th grade at our school. And Rebecca will tell the story. She fought tooth and nails in didn't want to come to Newbridge. But in the end, she said it was probably the best experience she had, and it was the best experience she had because of the mentoring program.
Yep.
That's her with the resource book.
Yeah, she kept it. She still has it. And you know what? I didn't share this with you.
And a mentoring program between USC and a Midlands alternative school is setting teens up for what life will be like after school. A few years ago, Rebecca Rojas was one of those teenagers, and she attended the Newbridge Academy and says this mentorship program provided her with the tools to succeed. She says without her mentor, she would still be getting into trouble and would not be currently a sophomore studying criminology.
It was really life-changing. It definitely helped me as a student and also as a person just grow, and they really planted a seed. And I don't think they understood how big the impact was on me as a mentee.
Program officials are applying for...
I'll cut it off now. So yeah, we're happy to take questions now. Let me stop sharing my slide. There we go. And we thank you for coming today on the right before a long weekend.
Really excellent presentation, you guys. We really appreciate you being here. We have one question for our last couple minutes.
Yeah.
Ali asks, how do you scale this to get a program into every school? So ideally, how would you do that?
I would say first talk with your principal and see if there is a need and a want. I know there's a need, but if there's a want, and then basically get buy-in from the teachers, and then find a willing professor who would really want to work with you.
Yeah, I think a lot of it also is word of mouth. So when you think about, and just education. So think about how many just USC alone has almost 40,000 students. And you think about all of the other universities and colleges across the state of South Carolina, there are enough potential mentors to meet the needs of just about every school.
It's an excellent point. Any other questions? I know we're getting down to the wire here. There's a question about how much input is gained from parents.
For the most part, my parents are very appreciative. I tell them about the program when I actually have an intake with the students, and they're like, light up when I say we have a partnership with the university. Yeah. And they pretty much just say, go for it. So they're very appreciative.
Awesome. That's really great to hear. Okay, so we are at 5 o'clock. I just want to thank you guys again for being here. If you are attending and you could do our post-presentation survey, we really appreciate that feedback. A recording of this webinar along with all of our content is available on our website and our YouTube page at 3BE. Please like and follow and subscribe to all our social medias to stay connected. Our website offers valuable resources and opportunities for dynamic engagement. Schoolbehavioralhealth.org/BASK. Thank you for joining us, and don't hesitate to reach out, bask@mailbox.sc.edu. I put that in the chat earlier. Really appreciate it, you guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.